Here we go. Welcome to Mountain Aromatics. Today, I got a question last night about how do I dilute my materials? Do I use IPM? Do I use perfumer's alcohol? Do I use DPG? What do I use? So today, I'm going to go over that. So it was Skylar who wrote me, and he was like, I'm kind of assuming it's a guy, maybe it's not, but they were saying, so I have a lot of materials that I need to dilute, and I have some solids that I need to dilute. I have a bunch of materials I need to dilute them. What do I do? Do I use IPM, or do I use perfumer's alcohol, or do I use DPG? And then how much? And I'm like, whoa, the reason why I need to do a video on that is because it is crazy complicated. It's perfumery, it's just complicated. So, and it's the word you're not going to want to hear. It depends. And it depends because there are some materials that will only dilute in a with 10% of the product to 90% of your solution. So like perfumer's alcohol or IPM, whatever. And then there's some that you can do at 40%. For example, ambroxan. Ambroxan is made by a number of companies like KO, that is a company. They make ambroxan. IFF has ambroxan. So it's just released in the wild. It's not a captive, all that kind of stuff. So it is at 40%. And then the other question that he was asking, well, what do I dilute it to? Well, okay. Just a generic, to me, it's almost like a generic question because, well, if you have aldehydes, holy cow, that even depends because I work all my materials basically, again, it's complicated, are at 100%. So I work at 100%. So if I work at 100%, my true aldehydes need to be at a 1%. That's very different than, oh, dilute this to 40% or 50% or whatever you're working with. Again, I did a video earlier and I said my fixative 505 is at a 10%. That's why it's complicated. It just kind of is complicated. It's not that simple. It takes, there's nowhere out there that you can just look it up and it just tells you, because even when you go, let's just make it simple. I'll go with one material. Nerolin Bromelia. So you can only get that in crystal form. I believe that's correct. There's a few materials like on creatingperfume.com that if you purchase it, you are purchasing a crystal or a powder. And you either buy it in crystal powder form or you don't buy it. Like that's how it's offered. So when you get it home, you need to, and I say you need to dilute it. That depends because you can get to where you are just getting the powder and you are weighing in your formula, you are weighing out the powder directly into your formula. See, I just got crazy complicated, but it's true. So that's why I'm doing this, because it's just so complicated. But let's go back to the Nerolin Bromelia. And it is at creatingperfume.com, and some other places have it as well. It's in a crystal form. And when I first got it, because it wasn't that expensive, I got some and I put it in, I think I put it in IPM, and I almost didn't even have to heat it up. I was like, wow, this is pretty interesting. I'm not having to heat this up. And then I'm like, I heated it slightly, just a little bit. This one does not take much heat at all for it to dissolve. So I'm just going to say, your most forgiving crystal or powder that I have come across, the easiest one to work with is this one, which obviously Nerolin Bromelia smells like absolutely oranges. It's Nerolin, it's neroli, so orange blossom kind of a thing. That's what this is. So it is by far the easiest one, but it took me almost a year to figure it out that you need a lot of it because it will all really, really, really dissolve. And I think it's about 50%. And a lot of the ones that you get that you can purchase where it's just the powder or the crystals, a lot of them are like at 10%, some even less. So you barely want to put in any in there, and you're gonna have to use heat. The other thing I did not even mention was AgioClean Multi. AgioClean Multi is a harder core, like when you have something that really is very difficult to dissolve, which on Creating Perfume is I'm going to just have to grab it because I can't think of the exact name, but I want you to know it. What's the name? Here it is. I knew I'd remember. Okay. Veratrol aldehyde, that one. So like a vanilla. Veratrol aldehyde. You can only get this on Creating Perfume in a powder form, and she suggests using AgioClean Multi. Again, it's a vanilla, and when you get it, it's going to be a light white crystal like this, and then of course it's going to turn because it's a vanilla. It's vanilla's turn, so it is what it is. So this one you do at a 10%. That's as good as you're going to get. But it's a great fixative as well. I think we were speaking about fixatives. It's very heliotropin type of an aroma. It's warm vanilla, creamy, woody, very vanilla, heliotropin type of aroma. But this is a great example of something that's a little more difficult to break down. And for that, you need AgioClean Multi. So back to Skylar's question. Well, do I use IPM or do I use alcohol? Well, that's up to you. Do you typically use perfumer's alcohol to dilute your stuff, or do you typically use IPM to dilute your stuff? Well, what's the difference? Okay, so perfumer's alcohol is going to be natural. So if you are one to where you have to stay natural, which anyway, if you do, then most people will pick perfumer's alcohol. The problem with that you will find is that, of course, it evaporates. Even when you have this closed all the way, after a while, a good while, after a while, it will disappear from the bottle. And especially, which you don't want to do, but if it's in a warmer spot, it's going to do it more so and even quicker. And if you use IPM, IPM is going to be thicker. IPM will not evaporate like that. But I'll just tell you, I tend not to use IPM for my dilutions. I tend, for the most part, to use perfumer's alcohol, especially if it's a natural material. I will always use perfumer's alcohol. So where I will tend to use IPM to cut something or to dilute will be when it is a powder form that needs to be heated, because you have to be super, super careful when you're diluting a powder and you need to heat it. You can do it, because I do it all the time, but it's a water bath. You need to be very, very careful, all that kind of stuff. You don't need to leave the room. It doesn't need to be like behind you. It should be in front of you where you're seeing it and paying attention. All of that kind of stuff. You need to burp it, let the air out every few minutes, that kind of stuff, but it can be done. But that's where I'll tend to use IPM. So Amy said that Susan diluted your aldehyde as a matter of course when you ordered it. So are you saying that she did it and did not ask you? She just diluted it, or you asked her to dilute it? So that's a question, and then I'm gonna go up. Dave would shed some light on how to dilute tough to dissolve materials like ethyl maltol and aldehyde. Yes, so ethyl maltol, it's not that it's that difficult, it's just that you can't use much. It's like, it's less than 10% that you're going to use. So any more than that, and it's just going to crystallize at the bottom of the glass over time. For example, here we go. And this material just drives me crazy. I don't understand it. I have called Alora so many times over this material to figure out, like, do I have the right material? What's the deal? But phenyl ethyl salicylate, which is, when you think of phenyl ethyl, you think of a tiny bit of herbal, and then ethyl, clean, fresh, and salicylate is going to be like an orchid. So you think it's going to be like a fresh, kind of a little bit herbal, and that's kind of what you get. I'm just trying to teach you the words. Like, if you look at the words and you have no idea what it smells like, thinking about what it might smell like by what it's called. But it's a balsam, floral, rose, hyacinth, that kind of a thing. This is a fixer and a blender, but it is another one where you barely put any. Like, it's like at a 10%, and I still have a huge, I bet you cannot see it at all, but I have a huge piece of crystal in there. You're not going to see it. Anyway, and sometimes it does a lot of baby crystals. This is the first time it's done a big chunk of crystal, so it's actually kind of cool. But anyway, this is one. I just never smell a thing. I put it on the test strip. I've done a million things. I just can't smell it. But anyway, it's a fixative in a blender. I think it's just a huge fat molecule. But with the salicylate, that doesn't make that much sense to me, that it's such a huge molecule, like over 200 or something. That just doesn't make sense to my mind. With anyway, it's a whole nother story. Kimberly, that's awesome. Oh my gosh. Oh, you didn't ask. You ordered 5 grams and it came in a 15 ml bottle. Huh. Okay. There you go. Awesome. That's great. That's trust me, that's a good thing, because Amy, it's not an easy one to do. It's one of the harder ones, and there are a lot of harder ones out there. So maltol natural is another one that is just like the maltol. I forgot who was asking. Frag Fanatic, with the ethyl maltol. The maltol natural is going to be about the same. It's like just like 10%, and that's about it. And you do have to use a little bit of heat with it. But of course, with the maltol natural, I use the alcohol. I just did a water bath and that kind of a thing. And this is where you need to weigh out your materials. The other thing I wanted to say, I've said this a lot or whatever, but in a ½ ounce or 15 ml bottle, when you're weighing stuff, it's going to be grams. So the best way to think about that is that so it doesn't ending up being too much, and the materials that you're putting in there weigh different amounts. Okay, so the easiest way to do it is think of this filled is going to do 11 grams is your total amount, 11 grams. Okay, so if you're doing 11 grams and you want to do a 10%, you're going to weigh out 1.1 gram of your powder, and then the rest of that up to weighing out 11 gram is going to be either IPM or whatever. But and remember, that's why you want to weigh everything so it's will be consistent, because if you use IPM weighs more than perfumer's alcohol. But if you do, the reason I'm telling you 11 gram is because it'll come right up to there. 12 gram sometimes goes way too high, and it's just going to mess you up. So that's just a tip. Always weigh out with your ½ ounces, do 11 gram. That way it's better for you to be too low than way too high, and then you can't even stick your dropper back in because it's too much. So I hope that helps. But again, I think my point is that it is not a simple answer. There's many factors that you need to think about. One being, do you typically want to dilute in IPM? Do you typically want to dilute in perfumer's alcohol? And kind of deciding that. Then there are a few that are really difficult, like the Viatrol aldehyde, which is pretty difficult to do. And that is using AgioClean Multi. And there are a few others powders. I cannot think of them off the top of my head, but there are a few other powders that are really, really difficult. And I've used AgioClean Multi, and I've just written that on my label that I make in the front. Again, yeah, so that is something you need to think about. It's kind of first deciding when you dilute, are you typically wanting to do perfumer's alcohol or IPM? And for me, if they're a natural, like your maltol natural, I always use perfumer's alcohol, even though it may be pretty difficult. That's what I do. And there's no right or wrong type of thing. The difficult, crappy thing about this is that things are at different amounts. They just are. Like it took me a year, because it's just not out there and it's not on the web page that says, oh, use 50% of this and 50% of a, IPM or alcohol, perfume is alcohol. It's not out there, and it drives me crazy. And that's why I do these videos. So you're learning you're learning a lot. You're learning from me that Nerolin Bromelia, you can use, it takes a lot. You can keep pouring more and more and more in there, and it's just going to keep dissolving and keep dissolving. And finally, I'm like, oh, I guess from now on I can use 50% crystals to 50% of perfumer's alcohol. And at first I was using 10%. And I kept doing more and more and more. But at first I thought, oh my God, that's enough. I need to stop. And then months later, I came back to it and figured out by playing with it that it takes a lot. So I went from the Nerolin Bromelia being, well, it's really, really light. I mean, it's pretty, but it's really, really light, to where it is right now. And there's 0 crystals in there at all. It's all completely dissolved, and it's about 50%. Gorgeous. Oh my God. So this one is worth getting. Get it. You guys know I love Orange Blossom. I love Orange Blossom. And this is a different take, because this is very, I'll just be real with it, very, very sweet, but I love sweet. It's a very, very sweet, light, florally orange blossom, which is not like your normal orange blossom, because that's very, very narcotic and heavy and blah, blah. This is very light and floral and very, very sweet, but holy Moses, it's more than neroli, which is more bright, but I just didn't realize it would smell this good and be this strong. But it's because at first I was using 10%, and then I went, oh my God, 20%. But no, you can use a lot of it. You'll need more than you think, which is awesome in my case. But it's just, that's why this is frustrating, because like that one, and then you get to ambroxan, which of course, yes, you can buy your ambroxan already done. But my point is it's going to be done at a 40%. And that's its max. If you do more than that, you're just going to have crystals at the bottom. So, because I have it in powder form as well, because I wanted to play with it and learn. So I got some in a powder form as well. And then your aldehydes, your true aldehydes, when you do everything at your 100%, because his other question was, well, what do I dilute it to? Well, 1%. If everything is if you use all of your materials at 100%, you want your aldehyde C12 to be at 1%. All of your true aldehydes that are piercing and very, very projecting, and you want to be very, very careful when you do that and use these to hold up your stuff so it doesn't spill, because it will kind of take over the whole house because they're strong. But anyway, that is why this is just not an easy answer, and it can be frustrating for me, because it's not a straight answer. It's incredibly complicated. It's complicated, and it depends. So what I would need is for you to give me specific materials that you're wanting that information on. Most likely, I've worked with it and have done it and used it and that kind of a thing, and I've tried. Because I really do try to play with this stuff and figure it out and all that kind of stuff, so I will know, so I can tell you. And that's why your support is really helpful, because I do want to buy maltol natural in just the powdered form, and I want to buy, you know, phenylethyl salicylate in a powdered form, and ambroxan in a powdered form to practice and see how this works and all that kind of stuff, so I can teach you. So that's how your support helps me. So the other thing I wanted to say that has to do with this, it's just incredibly important, is when you get these from, I can't speak about other places because I don't know. When you get these, if they come in a plastic, like a Ziploc bag, there'll be different sizes, whatever, small, big, whatever. If you get them out of the Ziploc bags. Get them out. It doesn't mean, oh my God, I have to get them out that day, today. Oh my God, they just came in and I don't have time, and freak out. No. But in the next couple of days, get them out and put them in something. This is a hard plastic. It is, it's like a big fat lip gloss jar is what this is. So you could use that. The other thing that I use is, you all know what this is. It's just the 5 ml vial. And I have my Fanta lid in here. So use this, but whatever you do, go ahead and move them and get them out of the plastic. Your room will smell like them. They will get out. The molecules will jump out. I know it's crazy, but it's true. It's true. You think I'm kidding? I'm not kidding. They will get out and they will jump on stuff and stay there. And depending on what they are, those heavy molecules will get on a shirt and stay. Will jump on your carpet and stay for a long time. It's really interesting, but it's true. So that's my only other thing that I said before, but I have a lot of videos, so I'm just repeating it again. But that's a really great thing to do. So I think that is all I have on that. I'm not sure. You'll just have to, if you have any more questions or something, just have your questions down below. And with this community, you are welcome to answer those questions as well. Obviously, I'm not the end-all, be-all, whatever. So you share your experience down below with the community. And that will be helpful for everybody. And so again, I hope this was helpful, and I kind of understand it wasn't that specific, but it was specific in some areas. So that was helpful. I probably just gave you a bunch of questions to think about more than answers, but that's okay, because you need to kind of, figure out, with this material, do I want to use IPM? Do I want to use Augioclean Multi? Or do I want to use Perfumer's alcohol? And there's also TEC, TEC. I'm having problems with TEC. I'm not liking TEC. And it's typically what Augioclean Multi is for the aroma chemicals. The TEC it's a citrate. It's what the TEC is for the naturals, for breaking down some of the naturals. I am kind of having a hard time with it blending with my other materials when I'm using kind of a good bit of it. So I'm tending not to use it, but I'm just throwing that out there, but that's just me and my experience right now. So, and I did an experiment, like I got Augioclean, I got the TEC, and I got IPM and Perfumer's alcohol, and I put TEC in both of those, and I think I did it at 10% each of TEC into those, and then it did 50%. And they did mix, and they did blend, but in other things, they're just not, and the TEC is sitting at the top, so I don't know what's going on. But anyway, just thought I would share that for more confusion. Oh my God. Anyway, thank you so much for being here. And I hope that helps you with your storage, with your dilutions, that type of thing. If you have a specific material that you want me to comment on and maybe what I did with it, put it down below and I'll try to get to it. Again, I'll probably do a few more of these today. And thank you so much for being here. And I will see you on the next Mountain Aromatics. Have a good day.